Welcome to Comical Recovery. I'm your host with the most trauma, comedian Jessica Byrne, creator of the upcoming cartoon Bud Ease, winner of multiple East Coast comedy contests, and 35 consecutive years of life experience in the School of Hard Knocks. Subscribe. Hit the like button for recognition. Tell all your friends about your new addiction because sharing is caring, of course. Welcome back to October's Domestic Violence Month, and we are love bombing the heck out of you. I don't like to curse on this. I like to curse in private. Keep that for designated areas of the household. Okay? So, we're not really love bombing you, but we are bombarding you. We, as in me, myself, and I. You're welcome. All three of us came today. Yes, we are bombarding you at the end of October because I said I was going to give you 4 episodes, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to beat myself up on this podcast in public, because I also like to do that in private. And I am trying not to do that at all. But it is a hard habit to break, especially when you have been in multiple years of domestic violence and abuse, and the cycle of abuse by childhood or relationships. Generally, if it's from childhood, you've got a higher chance of finding it in your relationships. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we are going to talk about cognitive dissonance. What is that, Jessica? Well, I'll tell you. It's one of the main reasons that people stay in abusive relationships, actually. Really? Oh, really? I will say this. It is that way. And I am full of it, if you couldn't tell by the last episode, and will probably be this way. Who knows? Hopefully forever. Because I like being full of it. But let's get down to brass tacks here, kiddos. I do have some things pulled up for you, because you're not going to know what cognitive dissonance is unless you're super smart. Maybe you do. But just in case you don't, I will share this information I have researched for you. And I will wet my whistle. So, the noun psychology definition of cognitive dissonance is the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change. Well, that's awfully wordy, Jessica. You're darn right it is. So let me see if I can dumb it down for me, because, that's better for me to do. I'm trying to figure out how to use a computer. Bear with me, kids. It's a rough life I got going over here. So they have a little happy diagram. I love happy little diagrams because I'm a visual learner more than anything, I think. But who knows? I think I'm just so complicated I must learn in all ways. But visual definitely helps. So they got a happy little chart here, and it says belief. Smoking cigarettes is unhealthy. Cognitive dissonance. So the solution is to change the action. Smoking cigarettes is unhealthy. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. And the cognitive dissonance is the action of smoking cigarettes unpleasant tension state, awareness that the belief and action are inconsistent. And then changing the belief in this happy little chart says the research on smoking is not conclusive. I continue to smoke cigarettes. So, if I didn't confuse you more, then I'll have to try harder. There's this other little comic strip, and I love this thing. It says, okay, so I'm going to give you the visual. Look at it like it's a voting booth. So in the voting booth line, there's a huge line that says comforting lies. And then there's an empty line with no people in it, and it says unpleasant truths. And I think that defines cognitive dissonance to a T. So I know that we're talking about domestic violence, but we're going to go with smoking because it's a much more pleasant topic to talk about. But I will try to find some examples in the meantime about the domestic violence as well, right? So let's go to smoking because it's a safe little sandbox that we can play in for a while. And it's something that's really relative to me recently. Because I am about probably going on 3 months of smoke-free, and I'm not keeping track. I'm just grateful that I don't crave cigarettes anymore, to be honest with you. But while I was still smoking, I was completely in denial of being addicted because I had myself convinced and continued to tell myself these comforting lies that I wasn't addicted because I didn't smoke every day. And I wasn't addicted because I didn't buy packs of cigarettes. I just bummed them from other people, which also made me a sleazeball, by the way. And I liked that because, I don't know, there was this, first of all, I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be, a part of. And bumming cigarettes from people allowed that to happen. And I definitely offered money. Nobody ever takes money for cigarettes, which is stupid because they should have just taken money from me because it wasn't about not spending money. It was about not buying the cigarettes because once I bought that pack, then I couldn't co-sign my lies about I'm not a smoker because I don't buy cigarettes and all this other stuff. And I would have smoked a lot more. So it was easier to hunt down people, and I literally did that. I would, drive miles to go and hang out with smoking friends just to bum cigarettes when I was stressed out. And I was totally in denial of the addiction. So, I had to dig deep and come to terms with the fact that A, I was definitely addicted to nicotine, and B, that I wanted to be a part of the crowd, and I had to do some inner child work and talk to my inner child and say, we can still be friends with those people. In fact, they'll probably like us more because we're not smoking their cigarettes. They're not funding our bad habit. So they will probably enjoy our company a little bit more. They may not cringe every time they see you, Jessica. So that was definitely a small piece of the puzzle, but it was not the complete puzzle. I went ahead and got myself signed up for some nicotine lozenges and tackled the problem with patches and tapering things down, which was very helpful. So, switching back to the actual topic, which is domestic violence. A super uncomfortable topic, of course. But in the same way, when we are in that kind of situation, we tend to tell ourselves comforting lies. And it's easier to do when we are surrounded by the majority of society that does not understand how to speak to someone in a domestic violence situation. Most people, normal people that have not been in that situation, will say things to the victim like, "You're better than that. Why don't you just leave?" Which translates in the ears of the victim as, "You're stupid. Why are you staying?" And this is a really interesting thing that I have learned about a lot of different disorders, is that when we come from trauma, we tend to hear things in a negative sentence structure. Even if it's not actually being delivered in that way, our brain tends to scramble up the sentence and switch words around or replace words completely so that we hear through a filter of essentially our low or broken down self-esteem. So even though our friends and family try to be helpful with these comments, they usually are not helpful. And there's a lot more that goes into being in a domestic violence situation than just packing up your stuff and leaving. A lot of people have children involved, and maybe their partner is the father or mother of said child. And a lot of people have tied up their financial situation to the abuser. And the list goes on and on. So, first and foremost, I want to make a point that it is really important not to beat yourself up for cognitive dissonance, because it's literally your brain protecting you in the situation that you're in. So all of these things that we're talking about this month are your brain's way of protecting you and keeping you safe so that you can cope and deal with the circumstances around you and survive the situation. But I'm giving you this information so that you can recognize why there's confusion and why there's indecision. Because when you don't know that this is what's happening, it can be really, really frustrating. And then for me, I would beat myself up more and more, saying I'm an idiot and this and that, when I'm in survival mode, and your prefrontal cortex, which is the front of your brain, which is the decision maker, completely shuts down, and you're on autopilot in the subconscious mind. And the subconscious has been programmed from when you were a wee child till whatever moment we are in right now. But really, the core of our being and our belief system is really cemented and foundational from inside your mama's womb till, they say 8, but I would say probably 12 as well. Because you're still just forming and everything is growing, and you're beginning to figure things out or question what's going on at about 12 years old. In my humble life experience knowledge, this is just me walking through the hellfire. So, I'm self-taught. I don't have a degree on my wall because I just jumped right in to the ring of fire and danced with the devil for about 35 years. Take it or leave it. But I'm out now, and it's lovely on the other side, outside of, toothaches and nonsense like COVID or whatever other sickness that I can't have any control over. So, this can be a lot of things, like I said, it's beliefs, ideals, and values. And I like to give solutions at the end of every discussion that we have. I tried to look up, there's this woman that I found, and she had like 7 different types of disassociation, and those were super duper interesting. And of course I can't find it on the Google, because Google is an idiot sometimes. Or maybe I'm just not doing this right. But one of the things that she was talking about is like going over a scenario over and over and over again, like a tape is playing over and over and over and over. I believe that she was talking about cognitive dissonance as that being it, or maybe it's disassociation. So we'll just move on to solutions, because I'm not sure. And when I'm not sure, I'm not going to give you that information. I'm going to look it up and we'll revisit the topic, because that's a better option. I want to give you the right stuff. So for cognitive dissonance, it's important to know that it's a process. And if you're in it, if you're in the situation currently, a lot of these suggestions may not be safe. The safest suggestion that I have if you're in the situation is therapy, because that is a safe place to get grounded in an outside opinion that is, to the best of the ability, biased. When you're talking to friends and family and you're in a toxic situation, typically the toxic person has mesmerized the people around you, and they are very charming and nice in the public eye. So it is very difficult to gain understanding of what's going on and have people on your side. So that would be the ultimate suggestion. And that's a difficult thing when you're in it, but that would be the safest bet. Or finding someone else in your life that you can count on and trust. The second thing I can say is, if you're in the situation, coming up with a plan and finding a safe place to begin to save money to leave the situation that you're in. And being extra secretive about it, because the situation that you're in is most likely life or death. And it's dangerous to be in a domestic violence, even if it's just emotional abuse. Especially if it's emotional abuse, you do not want to tell your person that you are leaving. Because there is a cycle, and we will absolutely talk about the cycle of abuse in the next episode. So it is on my list, and you will get all 3. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Just like that. Fast and hard. But in a fun way, not in an abusive way, okay? And yes, I'm making light the best of my ability, because that's what we have to do. And that is definitely another coping skill that I highly recommend, is joking about it. Deflection and sarcasm are great. Just, I would avoid doing that to your actual abuser, because that will make matters worse. But recognizing that you're in cognitive dissonance, and that, that inner conflict is your intuition telling you that something's wrong and something needs to change, is a really good start. And, something else that helped me along the path of getting out of abuse is talking to myself in the mirror. Yes, it sounds crazy, but it's actually recommended by good therapists. So I wouldn't go around telling everyone, unless you're me, because I do, because I don't care. I think it's great. I think it's a really awesome tool. And I also think it's exceptionally helpful when you're with a person that is emotionally abusive and basically planting negative seeds in the garden of your mind about yourself. It's really helpful to look into your eyes and speak out loud to yourself and, say, no, that's not true. And then say the truth to yourself. All these things are really scary, and they're especially scary if you have someone that you're living with, but just lock the door behind you and, accept the fact that they're going to call you crazy, but also realize that they are projecting. So everything that they call you, crazy, emotional, whatever, that's actually them. They're just spewing their venom out to you in an attempt to pretend that it's actually your fault when it is not. So for this particular topic, the next suggestion I would have would be writing, so if you're out of the situation, I would journal about it and I would cry, allow yourself to cry, because you need to get that stuff out, and you might feel really numb at first, and that's okay too. Find someone safe to talk to. That's important as well. And stay away from that person and take a little break from the dating pool so that you can start learning to love yourself. I believe that is the most important thing to healing, because once you start loving yourself and doing nice things and self-care and all that, if someone else comes into your life and tries to be mean, I promise you, you will not tolerate it, because you will know how to love yourself. At least that's my experience. I had dated after toxic stuff, and they didn't last very long because they weren't nice. And I saw that and stopped it immediately and moved on with my life to find someone who treated me nicer, because I'm worth it. But it took work to get to that point. And it also took some uncovering of my negative qualities or character defects or shadow self, whatever you want to say. If you don't know any of those terms, Google all of them because they're helpful to the process of getting to know yourself, because we are not perfect. And, it's good to see the good, bad, and ugly sides of our personalities, because those thoughts, beliefs, and actions are what lead us to magnetically draw butt heads into our lives. And yes, I am saying things in very nice terms because I have my A game today, and I'm pretty proud of that. So, all of that wonderful stuff being said, I'm going to cruise out and bid you adieu. Thank you for joining me in another episode of Comical Recovery with your host, comedian Jessica Byrne. Thank you for liking. Go ahead and comment on the bottom of the page. Subscribe and pass me around like your favorite doobie. Remember, laughter is the best medicine and sharing is caring. So I will see you next time for more Comical Recovery.